we want to thank you for joining us and let you know that our aim as the Integrative Duo is to bring you different conversations and opinions from knowledgeable and amazing people across the globe. Some of our topics discussed and opinions expressed invite you to look at health and wellness through a different lens. It is not medical advice, and we encourage you to speak to your healthcare provider for any continuing concerns.
Sound plus intention equals healing. Really, we can use sound to elicit a shift in physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Any of those state of being could be affected by sound. And, you know, it goes back to ancient times.
Welcome to the Integrative Duo podcast. You're here with Kat and Beck. We're sisters with very unique paths, wanting to explore all things holistic living, self-development and consciousness with you.
We're joining forces to help support and inspire others to lessen the chemical load, eat more whole foods, become more conscious of their thoughts and beliefs, plus so much more.
So today on the podcast, we've got Michelle Byrne, established Shanti Sound in 2011, where she shares healing and uplifting powerful music and sound. She offers yoga music, sound bath recordings, events and instruments to assist in the well-being of others. Michelle facilitates a podcast under Shanti Sound, where she explores the healing power of music and sound with other musicians. She also offers one-on-one sound therapy sessions where she can take you on a journey of relaxation, healing and growth. We're really excited to have you on the podcast today, Michelle. Welcome. And our very first question is, how did you start your journey in doing the amazing work that you do today?
Oh, it's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I grew up in a musical family, well, with my mother being very musical. So music was something that was always encouraged from childhood. And I started learning piano when I was about 5, and later in primary school, violin. And then when I got to high school, the drum kit was my instrument of choice. And throughout all of that time also was involved in singing groups and musicals. And so there was always music around. My mum took us to a lot of folk festivals. She's a folk musician and plays button accordion, and so we sort of got that side of things, traditional music, folk music, and then the instrumental lessons. And then that was when I grew up. We were in Mount Gambier. I moved to Adelaide when I was about 20, and at that time Mum was running a Celtic music session, and I got involved with that and started to learn stringed instruments, guitar and mandolin. And got quite involved in the musical world through that, and teaming up with other musicians and joining bands and playing all sorts of different gigs. And then probably about 10 years later, maybe not, sort of in my mid-20s actually, I think I started to find out about mantra music and found that to be really powerful and healing. I worked at a shop, well, I call it a hippie shop, but selling incense and candles and crystals and beautiful things from India and Indonesia. And there were these mantra CDs, and I just really resonated with them, and started to kind of delve in a little bit more to music being more than just something that made me feel good and have wonderful connections with other people, but looking into it being something that was actually very healing and had quite a powerful effect on healing for people. So I started looking at the mantra music, and then I met my husband James in 2008. And when we got married in 2011, we went on a retreat with David Primal and Miten, and they're two of the very foremost people who produce a lot of beautiful mantra music, and it's probably, I think, quite easy for us Westerners to listen to their sort of music, because it's a beautiful blend of the traditional Sanskrit mantras, and they blend it with music that sort of hits our ear as well. So started to really enjoy listening to that, and then wanting to make it and share it, and moving from sort of playing folk music into one side of our sort of world, I guess, being more playing the mantras and finding out about mantras. And I soon after that, in 2011, started Shanti Sound, after we got back from that first retreat with David Pramal and Miten, and that was the start of Shanti Sound. And I've done quite a few different studies and other retreats, and much more learning since that time.
That's so cool what you've been able to achieve in that time as well. I'm blown away with what you can do and the sound you create. Can you talk to us about sound healing? So for some people, they don't really understand that concept, and I guess I've been into sound frequency and sound healing for quite a while. It resonates with me, and Kat's getting into it too, and it really resonates.
Yeah, I'm fairly new to it. Maybe say, like I said, the last 6 to 7 months. So if you could break it down really simply, because I'm sure there's going to be other people listening that are in a similar boat to me.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Who have no idea what it really is and what it means.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's actually a very broad field, and I definitely don't claim to be any kind of expert. I just I know what I've learned along the way, and what resonates with me and what works for me, and I know sort of what I love to share, and what James and I love to share as well. But it is such a broad field, and it can really be many things to many people. But I guess the basic premise of it is that sound can be a healing tool. Sound and music can be very healing for us on the 4 levels of our being. So if we think about ourselves as these 4 different levels, we've got our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And there's those 4 levels of being that music and sound can really affect us on. And really, we can use sound to elicit a shift in physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Any of those state of being could be affected by sound. And it goes back to ancient times. If we think about, many cultures would have used sound. If you think about the shamans of the Americas, and Egypt is well known for being very much about sound healing in the ancient times. And all those pyramids, some people say that they were designed as sound healing chambers. Even if you think about drumming, the drums, one of the most ancient instruments, and the voice. I mean, it's such a powerful healing instrument. We each have a voice, and I actually believe that our own voice is the most healing instrument of all. So we've all got this voice, and we can hum or sing, and even our speech, the way we use our voice can be very healing for ourselves. And I guess it is that kind of cup full thing, when we can be working on ourselves and using sound for ourselves as a healing tool. That's when we can share it with others. And there's a great quote also that I think is relevant to your question, which is from Jonathan Goldman, who's an amazing author. And if you want to look into sound healing at all, definitely look up Jonathan Goldman. He's been one of the foremost people researching sound healing since the 80s. And I was lucky enough to go on a 10-day retreat with him in Colorado about 5 years ago. And the quote that I think most people who are interested in sound as a healing tool will know this quote. It's sound plus intention equals healing. So sound is known also to be really powerful to I guess, amplify our intentions. So if we're coming to, into a healing state or a healing practice with the intention of, whether it's physically healing a part of our body or creating well-being in general, or whether it's, wanting to use it as a manifesting tool and create newness in your life, or whether it's simply as a stress relieving tool. It's about coming with an intention and allowing the sound to amplify our intention, and that brings about that healing or holing experience. My teacher, one of my great teachers, Liz Cooper, she's my teacher from the British Academy of Sound Therapy. I did study with her in 2012 to 14, and she had that Jonathan Goldman quote, was as sound plus intention equals holing. So she liked to use the word holing in place of healing. But yeah, they're very, very much crossover, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. I like how you have delved on some of the benefits, but could you maybe elaborate a bit more on the physical benefits of the healing?
Or even mental, spiritual, any benefits.
Like a little bit more specific. So I think I have read that obviously stress and anxiety, definitely, and that creates that whole the wholeness and the well-being. But is there any other benefits that you could elaborate on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess this probably crosses both of those levels, the spiritual, not spiritual. This probably crosses the levels of the physical along with the mental and emotional. So we have the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that's attached from our brain through most of the major organs in the body. And when we can give that vagus nerve a signal to like drop everything down a notch, those signals go through the body, through all of the major organs, and affect the parasympathetic nervous system. So there's actually, real physiological effects happening, which are that our blood pressure can stabilize, our breath will slow down, our temperature will normalize, our heart rate will normalize. And so there's all these good physiological things happening where it's the type of physiological effects that happen when we immerse in these kind of relaxing activities. The same thing could probably happen in a massage. The same thing happens when you sing in a group with other people. So we get this activation of the vagus nerve through sound, and certain sounds really, really work amazingly to give that activation. So the Tibetan singing bowls and the gongs and the human voice are three of the really powerful sounds that activate that vagus nerve and bring about the physical response. And, we have so much feedback from people about physical things that happen to them during their sound experience. So often during a sound bath and also during the one-on-one sound therapy that I do. And people do often experience relief from pain, and, it might be a long-held pain. It might be something that's been going on for years, or it might be simply they've got a bit of a stress headache, and that can just somehow disappear. But yeah, it's really interesting. We have had a lot of feedback from people with long-term injuries or pain, and one of the things that people say is, that it might be, say it's a shoulder pain, and they'll say, oh, and I've had this for so long, and then I was just lying there and the singing bowl was playing, and then I felt this sharp shooting pain in that area, and then it just got really intense, and then it just went. And there's been a few occasions where people have said things like that, and they've said later on that they've never had that pain back. So I guess it is a bit magical in some ways, and probably I don't know what the explanations for that are, but there are definitely many cases where people experience that physiological effect, and yeah, and that's a really amazing thing. Yeah.
So it's like you were saying, the intention, as well as, is it the frequency of the sound that's causing the healing as well as the intention? Is that what you're saying as well? That it's specific frequencies?
Yeah, well, it could be, absolutely. So another thing that I found really interesting with doing the Jonathan Goldman 10-day retreat, I'd always found his work very interesting and read a couple of his books, and even based a course that I used to do on one of his books called Chakra Frequencies, which is a very, very good book. And you know, people are interested in the different frequencies, as in the hertz. So the hertz is how many times the sound vibrates per second. So our Western music, we tune our instruments to 440 hertz, and some people believe that there are different frequencies if we tune the instruments to, or if instruments are created in, like 432 is a really common one, which a lot of people like to research and tune their instruments to and make music in. And yeah, my hubby makes these beautiful cosmic tone drums, and definitely went through a phase where lots of people were like, can you make me 432 please? And you know, he did a lot of that. But so back to the Jonathan Goldman thing, he people were asking about this same thing at the retreat, and he pretty much said that any frequency or sound could possibly be healing for any different person on any different day. So it might be, you know, that, yeah, it might be that this, whatever sound we might be using is just right for that person who's come to the session on that day at that time, and we just happen to be using this particular bowl, or you know, maybe it's a didge or whatever instrument, drumming, whatever it might be. It's yeah, it's that they are there at that time and they're receiving that sound, and it has, you know, it has that effect. And of course there are instruments that are said to be tuned to the chakras, and so that's kind of another area that you can look at as well, because but it's tricky because there's different systems and schools of thought. So if you think about the notes, we only have 7 notes really in music, or plus the sharps and flats, there's 13, but you know, we start at C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, okay? And so many of the schools of thought about chakras and the, you know, ancient research, they say that the C starts at the base chakra, and then D is the sacral, and E is the solar plexus, and F is the heart, and so on. And, you know, so you can look at it in that way as well. But I don't personally necessarily always use that chakra system. And then there are other schools of thought which will say, you know, no, A is the root chakra. And so it's yeah, it's interesting. You have to find what resonates for you, and trust that it's going to have the right effect on the person or people that are in the room with you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And when you say that it's magical, I kind of get like, it might be this kind of woo-woo type of healing. I don't know how else to describe it, but I remember back in ICU, so we're talking, you know, westernized medicine, most people were on ventilators and unconscious. They'd have a harp player come in, and she would play the harp for, I don't know, maybe about an hour or so, and just listening to that and hoping that, I suppose, the patients then would, on a subconscious, like a deeper level, heal and feel that beautiful music. So I go, oh, it's been used, you know, intertwined. And you look at palliative care and how music can be such a useful tool in palliative care. And I love how you talk about pain, because we've got such an issue with chronic pain, but also like opioid use and addiction. And if we take it back a level and look at what we can be doing that might not cost a lot, might not have damaging effects to our body, we can look at sound healing and how readily available it is. Like you said, you can hum, you can sing, but then you can also participate in sound healing and see practitioners and experts like yourself for specialized treatments. And I just think that is amazing. I've loved listening to what you have to say, because it's a newer concept to me, and I really like that.
Yeah.
You touched on some different instruments that you can use, so the gong, the drums, I think you said tuning forks. Would you be able to maybe elaborate a bit more on the main ones used, and if they're used in a special way? Do they have special powers, or are they used for particular types of treatment? Would you maybe be able to go in a bit further about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, every practitioner will have their own toolkit, and there are many instruments, and that there are many sound specific instruments. So I'll talk about my toolkit. And my sound toolkit started off being based on the British Academy of Sound Therapy course that I did earlier in 2012 to 2014. And the first one was Diploma in Group Sound Therapy. So that was gathering all of the sound bath instruments. And I'll talk about that first and the way that they're used. So the sound bath itself usually would start with singing bowls, and it would be there is specific ways that the singing bowls are used. And Liz Cooper, she's also an amazing author. She's got some really great books that people might want to check out. One is called Sounding the Mind of God. Anyway, so the method, the British Academy of Sound Therapy method, uses the singing bowls in a very specific way. So you're using dongs. I don't know what else to call them, but they're sort of like you're using the low tones and getting those low dong sounds going with the bigger bowls. And then you kind of move through different sections with the different bowls. And one of the really amazing sections is called, it's a long and low section. So you play one bowl, or if you're working with a partner like I often do with James, you can play two bowls at the same time. If you can play these two bowls, you would choose bowls that sound harmonically nice together, although there are times which you can use bowls that don't sound nice together, and I can come back to that. But so you use the two bowls for a long and low period, and it's about 5 minutes that you want to play the same sound. And James and I do this just about every sound bath with the same two bowls. We've done this for years, and what it does is it entrains the brain. So there's this thing that you probably know about. It's brain entrainment, and it basically it helps to bring our brain out of all the thinking that all of us humans are always doing. We're always thinking about the future and the past, and entrainment brings our brain's frequency coming to the same frequency as the bowls, and we're entrained, we're focused on that frequency. So that's kind of the start of the sound bath. Is it brings everyone, it brings your energy and your focus in to the sounds. We then move to a gong section, and there's various ways which the gongs can be played as well. And I mean, there's the training that I've done, which was amazing, and there's also other trainings which are all about gongs. I know there's a couple in Australia at the moment. But the ways that you can play the gong, you can play like heartbeats, so very soft, repetitive heartbeats, and then you can also play like a wash, a nice low wash, that nice low rumble. And then you can do a section which is referred to with the British Academy of Sound Therapy, well, it was when I did the training, might be different now, but it was called Into the Fire. So that's when you bring the gong up, you bring it right up and get that really strong fiery gong sound. And to me, that's a real cleansing and clearing sound. It's like you're there with the gong, you've had this beautiful lull with the soft, repetitive, deep and heartbeat sounds, and then just brewing up the fire, and it's like everything burns in the fire. Anything that you're holding on to that you don't need anymore, you can just release. You just breathe and just let it go, and then you come back down to the beautiful the heartbeats or the wash again. And then we always move into a crystal bowl section. That's the next in the movement. So and crystal bowls are really interesting too, because you can use either the chakra system that we were touching on before. So you can just choose you know, what's going on in the world at the moment. It might be that people are, you know, in fear, or, you know, if there's a tragedy that's happened in the local area or anything like that, or if you're doing a specific sound bath for a specific group of people, you can, you know, you can think, okay, well, they all need, you know, a lot of heart chakra healing coming in. Or it might be if there's been fear, you know, you bring in the base chakra support. And so you can choose to use the bowls in that way. And the other way you can use them as well is you can choose brain fade. You can choose the intervals which you use. And so for musicians, musicians listening will know what intervals are, but I'll just explain that for people that aren't musicians. It's basically the musical distance between two notes. And there are some that are less pleasant, and then there are some that are beautiful and pleasant. So the most pleasant ones are called a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. And so, for example, that would be a C and an F, or a C and a G. That's just some, you know, a couple of really simple ones. And that would be really beautiful, sort of expansive, lovely sounds to use the two bowls together at the same time. Sometimes I'll come back to just talking about when you would use a less pleasant sound. You can use like a minor second is the closest interval, and it's that sound that if you've ever heard the Jaws music, which most people have, or music from scary movies, it's like do 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 do. And if you play those two sounds together at the same time, it creates beat frequencies, and it's the two sounds, you know, they're so close together they kind of bounce off each other, and that's said to be very useful for shifting really stuck energy. So whether it's like if you're working with someone that's got a really stuck belief about something, that might be a time where you'd use the that really close frequency interval. Moving on from that, and when James and I do our sound bath, so we've kind of adapted our sound bath over the years from the British Academy method, just to add some things that we like to do. So James plays a bamboo flute that he made, which perfectly matches one of my bowls. That's a crown chakra bowl. It's a nice big deep bowl, and it sounds really beautiful. So we moved from the crystal bowl section into the crystal bowl and voice. So we do some chanting, usually at the end, towards the end of that section, and then we come out of the crystal bowl section with crystal bowl and flute. And then that moves into a chime section. So then we kind of come into this like dainty, fairy-like sound of these beautiful, beautiful, lovely chimes. And we use the koshi chimes. They're these gorgeous chimes from France. They're bamboo with little metal and glass beads with metal bars that sort of tinkle against the beads. And they're in 4 different tunings of the elements: earth, air, water, and fire. So we use the chimes, and then we come into the water sounds. We use a couple of different rain sticks and ocean drums. And then the end of the sound bath is a percussive section. So we have shakers, and we have a beautiful big African instrument called a calabash, which I play. And James has another African styled instrument called an udu, which he actually made out of a clay pot that we found. And yeah, so that's how our sound bath ends, with this percussive section. And then there's usually a couple of minutes of silence. You know, you need the silence to punctuate the sound. And we always play a song. We've got some beautiful songs that we like to sing. So we usually play a song sort of at the end, just for people to come back, and that would be with some stringed instruments like a guitar and a bouzouki or something like that. And so that's our sound bath instruments. But yeah, there are other instruments that we bring in too. So we actually, before we do everything that I just said, we start with when we do the sound bath together, we do a didgeridoo with a buffalo drum, which is it's a vegan buffalo drum, for all the animal lovers out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful sounding deep bass buffalo drum, and the didge, and that's sort of that's an add-on that we've added ourselves, but it's like a really grounding and bringing everyone right into the space. And we always begin with an acknowledgement of the country that we're on. And when we play that didge and drum section, we always like tune into the area where we are, and just feel into the earth and kind of give a bit of love to the planet as well, and to the land where we have gathered. Yeah.
That sounds so amazing. We're just sitting here just in awe because we're both not very musically orientated, like we are very tone deaf.
Yes.
But we appreciate music so much. So yeah, it just sounds so amazing. And I was thinking about sound baths, and like I've experienced quite a few of them, and I have such a beautiful energetic experience when I have them. Like I can really feel the energy moving. I'm very self-aware. But I was curious because I've heard some schools of thoughts of people that shouldn't go to sound baths. Let's say like people that are pregnant are told not to at a certain point of their pregnancy perhaps, or what's your thought on that? And if there's anyone that shouldn't attend, is there such a thing?
Yeah, so I guess I do have some contraindications that are on my website on the booking page, which is just actually most of it's based on our Australian insurance. So it's sort of just contraindications for the contraindications for pregnancy say that people should not attend if they are in the first trimester, so if they're less than 3 months pregnant, but it's only because that's an insurance requirement. So in my mind, I don't know of any research that actually says that that it would cause any issue. And I know of people that, especially probably use sound themselves. Many people would sit with a crystal bowl or their own singing bowl, or attend a choir, or do some other music, and with no negative effects. But it's I guess it's the same with other therapies. There are certain therapies that I think this is the same insurance requirement, so that if something happened to someone and they were in the first trimester of pregnancy, you would not be protected. But that's really what that is about. But there are other contraindications for people with severe mental health issues. It's probably not a good idea to attend a sound bath. Of course, there are people who may be suffering from mental health that could really benefit from some sound work, and it might be for those people, or for some people, that it's better to have a one-on-one personal experience, just because in a sound bath situation, you're in a room which is darkened generally, and you're in a space with several other people. And sometimes sound bath, most of the time, most people find it really relaxing, but for some people it can actually trigger old stuff. So it might be that you're a person who has got a deep trauma that you haven't ever processed or looked at or dealt with, and that could if that came up and there wasn't support available, it could be unpleasant. And then if someone was if someone was to experience a panic attack or something like that during a sound bath, at one of our sound baths we do have usually a third person that's just sort of a room person that actually she's mostly there to make sure people don't snore. but we have a person there who's like a third space holder, but for us to stop playing the instruments and go and help someone that's having a meltdown, it's not really possible. So it's basically when you come to a sound bath, you do need to be self-managed, and that's the main reason why it's not really good for someone who's not in a good way mentally to attend. But in saying that, lots of people experience great relief from anxiety and stress. So I think if there's minor issues and people are well managed, of course, then it should be fine. I hope that covers it well.
Yeah, then that's fabulous. I didn't know that, so that's really good. It does make a lot of sense because you're in that group environment, and if you are aware or maybe conscious that there might be some trauma or something else that gets brought up, might not be the place that you want it to happen to either. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm curious to know, I've had a look at your work and your pages, and you talked about traveling to the APY lands to work with early childhood and sound and music, I believe. Could you maybe elaborate a bit more about that experience and maybe a bit more about early childhood, because I'm really interested to know how it could be beneficial for children.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sound is definitely beneficial for children, and music. Actually, I did a podcast with a couple of ladies myself, and they were two women that were sort of experts in that field. One was a music educator and the other was a psychologist that works with children, and they talked a lot about the effects of music and sound on the developing brain. And so, yeah, that's a really interesting one. If anyone wants to check that out. And so they were talking about also a project called Bigger, Better Brains by Dr. Anita Collins, based on work by Dr. Anita Collins. And that's all about how if you get children, babies even, this is why with little kids, parents and carers we sing lullabies, and we do that baby talk to and with children, because it's helping them to learn and develop language. So if there's a child who never gets this this feedback, and this they're not getting people, you know, speaking in that baby talk, and they're not getting lullabies sung to them, that they are developing slower than a child that is. So I mean, it's really amazing. Yeah, there's a world of research out there. And another local project that people might be interested in checking out is called the Lullaby Project, and that's a project where musicians go and work with the mums and carers of young babies, and they help them to write songs, and that's also like really amazingly beneficial. You know, they're working with, I suppose it's probably more for the parents than the babies, but anyway, worth checking out, the Lullaby Project Australia. And yes, so I was very fortunate last year to go to the APY lands at the end of last year in October with an amazing teacher who has been working with, she's an early childhood leader in the education department, and she's been, you know, probably working with early childhood, you know, probably like 40 years or something. And she now works with the all the schools up in the APY lands, and what they are trying to do is develop programs. And why she brought us musicians in, so it was myself and two other musicians, we created a program to support a literacy program. And what they're trying to do is help the people that live up in the communities of the APY lands to develop their language. And because, like, if you think about the difference in culture and language, you know, between our Western English style schools and language and learning, and then if you think about the way that the communities up there, you know, it's a very different way of learning. It's an oral language, so they don't have so much written language like we do. And so, yeah, what we were doing was creating musical support to support the development of the literacy programs up there. And I think overall what they are really trying to do is support the people up there to be fluent in their own language, in Pitjantjatjara, and then develop that fluency which they need to be able to, you know, you know, to support them as well, to develop their English skills. And, you know, it has to be that they're developing their natural language first, because, you know, imagine, Kat, you said you were a mum, like imagine if you sent your child to the school down the road and everyone only spoke Japanese in that school and your child has only ever spoken English, you know, how is your child supposed to go to that school and suddenly just learn Japanese, you know, if that's all they speak? So, you know, we need to have to be able to uphold the first language, the Pitjantjatjara, and then come in and support, you know, to learn the second language, which is English. So there's some really cool stuff happening up there, like those lullabies that we know. So things like Heads and Shoulders, Knees and Toes, and those kind of learning and developmental songs. They're being taught in the Pitjantjatjara language, and that was something I really loved, coming back, being able to sing Heads and Shoulders, Knees and Toes in language. And and there's a lot of beautiful books and resources that have been developed that are written in all of the languages of that area, because there's not just Pitjantjatjara, there are other languages up there too. Well, that's the main one, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, so it's about developing music to support the learning and connection, really, you know, the connection, because so we're working with preschools and playgroups, and so we would have the mums and the little babies and sometimes extra siblings and extra aunties and other people. And yeah, it was about developing fun songs, and sometimes with actions that can, you know, just support that learning and development. And it's an amazing thing. I mean, yeah, I love it. I hope I get to go back there sometime.
We can tell you're passionate about that. Your face lights up when you're talking and explaining your story. It's so lovely to hear. And you're right. So important to be able to speak your own, you know, native natural language, and then, you know, learn English or the other languages of the area that you're in.
Yes,
definitely first, because you want to be able to make sure that you can, you know, live your best life in your community and then in surrounding communities. But yeah, your face lights up, and that's wonderful. I love that. Absolutely love that. That sounds like it's would have been an amazing time.
Very, yeah, amazing place. And you know, it's not open to tourists, so it's somewhere that you only get to experience if you get a bit of a special invite. So yeah, we all felt very fortunate to spend a little bit of time there. Yeah.
That's so cool. Is there anything upcoming projects within Shanti Sound that you'd like to share with us, or anything exciting going on in that realm?
Yeah, well, we've just got our usual sound baths coming up. So we always have regular sound baths down at Port Noarlunga, usually the first Friday of each month. And then we have some regular sound baths at Yoga Garage, which is up at Belair, and that's a gorgeous spot. It's there's beautiful big windows, and you sort of see the sun going down, and there's lots of trees and the birds. You know, there's a few cockies around that like to chirp, and some kookaburras sometimes. And there's sound bath every now and then as well at Salt Yoga, which is at Christie's Beach. And yeah, we haven't got anything big coming up for Shanti Sound, but actually in April, James and I are doing a really special showcase of our original music, which is we do under the name Imagery, which is IMIJRI. Imagery. We like to have names that are hard to pronounce for some reason, but we've had that one pronounced a few different ways. But that's actually going to be at the Arts Centre at Port Noarlunga in the big theatre, and that's going to be really exciting. So for that show, it's beautiful music that we've written. It's mostly guitar and mandolin and a bit of percussion, and so we're looking forward to that. That's in April. I haven't got any details for that, but we'll have them up soon. And I don't know, different things always unfold, so I'll just wait and see what happens this year.
We will definitely put all of that in our show notes, and with the correct spelling as well, so people know where to find you, and then they can follow you on, you know, your Instagram and your multiple Instagrams and or social media, and be reminded, I suppose, of what you've got coming up throughout the year, because 2022 could be interesting, so who knows what's going to happen. But that sounds fabulous. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you think would be really beneficial for people to know about sound healing or sound baths or the instruments or the work that you do?
Well, I didn't quite go into the instruments used in the one-on-one therapy. So just briefly touch on that, because there are some different instruments, and again, there's many practitioners that will have their own toolkits, but it's different to a sound bath because you've got that focused attention and energy on yourself. So you usually will come with an intention, whatever that is, whether it's for healing or releasing, or it could be anything. And we do a scan over the body with a special chime, and we listen for any changes in the sound of that chime, and that can help a practitioner to perhaps discover if there's an imbalance in any area, like it might be a chakra area or just a different area of the body where the energy is sounds like it's either too expanded or contracted. And so that can really help you to choose the instruments that you'll use, and for example, to choose the different bowls corresponding to whichever chakra or body area might come up. And I have added in tuning forks into my practice. I love using the tuning forks. I actually got them at the Jonathan Goldman retreat in the USA, but there are people here that do a really amazing modality called acutonics, and that's worth checking out as well, because that's like a whole body treatment with the tuning forks, and they kind of use them like it's like acupuncture, but without needles. They use they're putting the sound instead, so they're placing the tuning forks where you would put an acupressure or acupuncture needle, and so that's a really interesting modality that people might be interested in. But so, and another thing that I do, which is part of the British Academy of Sound Therapy method, is use the voice during those one-on-one treatments, and focus in on the different chakra areas and make the vocal sounds for each chakra. And that's something that I really love as well. And there's some cool apps and programs out there that if people are interested in looking into, Jonathan Goldman's got one called the Chakra Tuner app, and you can just sit and make those chakra sounds. So it's pretty cool to think that you can just sit down, by yourself, make some time, maybe light a candle, and just and create these sounds that you can, really have a positive effect on your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual self. So I definitely think that's worth checking out. And I just think that singing is really amazing, and singing and chanting and sounding. And I know that some people think that they can't sing, but I believe if you can talk, you can sing. So just if you're someone who thinks that you can't sing or think you're tone deaf or something like that, just start by humming. Just sit down and hum for 2 minutes and enjoy that sound, and feel the resonance in your chest, feel the resonance in your head, feel that sound. You can feel sound in your body. As soon as you make a sound, you're going to feel it somewhere in your body. I can feel the sound I'm making just from talking in my chest. So so don't be afraid. I
was going to say, you haven't heard us sing. But I agree with that. I definitely can't sing. I'm tone deaf. But when I had my daughter, of course, you need to hum and sing. We don't need to, but you feel the need to hum and sing. And they go, "Can you sing me a song?" And it's just part of it. And they don't know that you sound terrible. They're too young to know. So it's good practice. But definitely do it. But
I don't think you sound terrible. Or I haven't even heard you, and I'm sure you don't.
Put that to the test.
I think but another, like joining a choir is a really good way to get past that as well, because lots of people in choirs think and say when they join, they're like, oh, I can't sing, and then they join up, and then after a while they're just singing, and it's just fun, you know. It lifts your heart, it lightens you. So, you know, and people say, I'm not a musician and that sort of stuff, but, you know, if you can clap your hands, you're a musician. You know, we've all got rhythm in our body, we've all got rhythm, we've all got a song. And I'm really passionate about people exploring music, you know, for themselves, and exploring what's within you. You know, and yes, coming to a sound bath, going to a beautiful music concert, having a sound treatment, all of that is absolutely amazing. But I think if we can explore what's in ourselves, that's really, really powerful.
I love how you explain everything so well, and it's just, you've articulated it so well. So thank you. And I hope this inspires people to, one, you know, really feel into the rhythm in their body. And, you know, you've inspired me. I said we're not musically orientated, but now I'm going to sing even more. So
Beck does sing a lot. It's just generally like in the kitchen with her own dance party.
That's great.
Or in the car with her own dance party.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, thank you so much for articulating all of that so well, and hopefully that inspires other people to perhaps even go out of their comfort zone and attend a sound bath, or see you for a one-on-one session, or just listen to beautiful music, but get out of their I guess open their minds up to other benefits of like other healing modalities out there, because sound can be so beneficial. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time today, and I'm conscious of the time, and I just want to say that it's been such a lovely conversation, and we're so excited to launch this episode so everyone can listen to it and dive deeper into sound therapies.
Most definitely. And I'm just thrilled coming from looking at other, like you said, modalities that can help people with stress, anxiety, pain, and perhaps look at alternative ways where you don't have to just pop another pill to be able to feel good. There are other ways that you can express yourself and explore the healing process. And this has been fabulous, and it's inspired me to check out a sound bath, which I never thought I would do. So I'm going to have another look at your Instagram page and check out. I think there's one coming up which will pass by the time we launch this episode, but I'm going to have a look, because it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds amazing. You inspired me.
Come along. Awesome. Oh, that's great.
So thank you so much for your time today and all your wisdom and everything. It's been fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. It will really help support this channel and share this message. By all means, go over to our social media platforms and let us know what you'd like to hear more of. All of our links will be in the show notes and things we've discussed today in the episode.